Redditors who made a lot of money by sheer randomness, what's your story? In the 90s I fostered a dog for some friends who were leaving town and left the dog with me. This dog immediately made an impression upon me, and even though I really didn't want a pet at the time, he was such an amazing dog, he convinced me otherwise. He was super smart, half black lab, half pit bull. I called him Wisdom because he was so smart. Fast forward a few years, I used him as a mascot for a recording studio I set up. I registered the domain name wisdom.com. My dog passed away several years later and I was heartbroken and depressed for many years. I maintained the domain name even though I didn't really have any projects associated with it. Over the years people made offers on the domain name but I always passed. The domain was a homage to my long-lost best friend. Then in 2000 with the .com boom, there was renewed interest in domains and IPOs. I had a few groups bugging me for the domain name and kept increasing their offers. Eventually the numbers got into the life-changing areas of money, and I couldn't ignore them. I originally secured the Wisdom.com domain name for nothing. In the early days of the internet, it didn't cost any money to register a domain name. You just had to fill out the right forms. I actually would never have to pay any domain renewal fees if it wasn't for a sysadmin that made changes to the domain and accepted new terms of service that forced me to have to pay renewal fees. Otherwise, the $475,000 I was ultimately offered in cash would have been pure profit. But instead my cost was a few $100s over the year. Still a significant windfall that gave me the opportunity to take that money and create another cool community of wonderful people. I continue to be in awe that my little dog, Wisdom, had the ability to bestow such an amazing gift upon me so many years later, and I'm determined to use that gift to help others. I took the money to create a special space that is a makerspace and club to help others. This is so wholesome, I love it. Awesome story. I remember the days of having to buy domains from Network Solutions. 90s internet entrepreneur here. My wife's aunt died. She had been institutionalized her whole life and neither of us had ever even met her. We kind of forgot about it for a few months until my wife's uncle emailed her and said she was going to be getting some money. We were like, oh, okay, that's kinda weird, but not complaining. Then my wife got a phone call from the uncle one evening. I heard a lot of ums, okays, and geez, wows. Turned out we were getting over $300,000. We were both grinding away making $15 an hour and barely making rent every month, and then boom. Out of nowhere. That ended up being the difference between having a house and not having a house, being able to start a family and not being able to start a family, and having a retirement fund versus just hoping not to get evicted every month. Sounds like you made very good use of the money. Congrats on the unexpected windfall, and using it wisely. That's so sad. She died alone. I found $3,600 in a food takeout box in the middle of a giant field. I live in a rich area and a lot of drug deals happen, so it's possible I stole multiple thousands of dollars from a drug dealer on accident. Someone is probably dead because of this, lol. Yeah, contrary to the replies, I doubt anybody died over it. I've known a lot of drug dealers, and I can't think of one that moved enough weight to have a $3,600 transaction that would do some dead drop shit in a field. I won $5,000 playing bingo on a cruise. I have only been on one cruise, and it was the only time I have played bingo in my life. I have retired from both. Going out on top. Worked a job for a long time. Got hurt on the job. They instead of helping me terminated me. Got a lawyer. A year later got $260K for the whole fiasco. Not sure if this counts, but that's my story. How much was it after lawyer fees and taxes? I was hurt off the job. Went back too soon and kept informing my boss I wasn't ready and still having a lot of problems, bad, severe insomnia among others. My boss did nothing and kept me working. I got the feeling I was being targeted to be fired because of the sick leave, so I lawyered up, documented everything and recorded all meetings. The company got wise I was being smart about handling the situation, spoke to labor relations and decided to buy me out instead. Ended up with about $40,000 severance package. Enough to ride out my recovery at least. Kinda wished they were stupid and fired me instead. I also only paid about $3,000 in lawyer fees because I found a really good lawyer. The summer after my freshman year in college I was walking my little 20-pound dog on a street near my house. A neighbor lady was walking her two dogs who were a husky and some other similar-sized dog. The husky attacked my dog and in the process I got some teeth marks on my wrist. Since the neighbor's dog started it and the owner obviously couldn't control it, I wanted them to pay the vet fees for my dog, which was under $500. The guy ended up being a dick about it and my roommate's dad was a lawyer, so about a year and a half later I ended up with about $20,000. Dude, either pay for my Shih Tzu or we'll sue the shit out of you. There's a little bit of a justice boner in there somewhere. Be a decent person and pay $500. Be a dick and pay 40x that. Playing blackjack while drunk in Reno. I had $300 to waste at the $5 table, got lots of free watered down drinks while I was playing, so I wasn't paying attention. I have a rule: 2 piles, one of cash I can waste and another of money I won. I was there for about 3 hours before I realized I wasn't out of betting money and the dealer had changed 4 times. Won $4,000 at that table. Paid for the trip and a bit left over. I haven't been to a casino since, but I doubt I'd have that kind of luck again. I've played one spin of roulette in my life. Put $40 on 17, and came in. I briefly worked with a guy who was in his late 20s, ex-military. When he got out, a friend of his he served with told him to buy Bitcoin. He bought several thousand worth when it was nothing and forgot about it. When it first started spiking and getting attention on the news, he started looking for the drive because he thought he had some. He didn't, he had a lot of it. Sold well before the peak. Dude made millions. He had an $800,000 house, multiple high-end cars and came to work a manual labor job because he was bored. Needless to say, he didn't stay long and all he did was show off his money and clock hours, not actually working. I know a woman who works at a board game cafe, a place where you pay $10 to play board games long as you want, and she is actually wealthy. She just likes working there. I feel like if you are wealthy enough to not need to work, you need something to occupy your time. Especially say this now during a pandemic, having more free time and feeling so bored. I used to play Minesweeper a lot. Some website showed up where you could play in little tournaments. I started with $20 and made over $1,000. Edit: I don't remember the name of the website. This was like 20 years ago. I'm sure it's long gone. I have never won a game of that. Even in the easy mode. I like numbers. I just can't do Minesweeper. Meanwhile, I had a friend who could rapid fire through expert mode. I started an Amazon private label business on a whim in 2015. I made about 25% of the sale in profit after product, shipping, and advertising costs. Sales doubled every month for 6 months: June $4,000, July $8,000, August $18,000, September $40,000, October $84,000, November $175,000, December $362,000. I didn't know what to do. I quit my job in January to focus on growing the business, but my time was spent mostly trying to fend off competition copying my listing and posting fraudulent reviews and then lowering my price in the race to the bottom. It went well for a few years, but I never made as much as I made that first December. Lesson learned: arbitrage isn't a long-term business. What kind of stuff did you sell if you don't mind me asking? I've always wanted to try this. Sounds like it could be worth it. Still, grossing $175,000 for half a year's work? That is not bad. When I was 17 about to turn 18, my mom told me to open a bank account because I was going to get around $500 to $600 from my dad. Opened the bank account, signed the papers she needed me to, and got a whopping $15,400 deposited into my bank at 18 years old. 2 years ago, 22 at this point, come to find out he gets a huge settlement for a car accident, I think? And get another $15K disbursed over 2.5 years. I'd kiff it was back child support or what, but I was really blessed. I've been working since I was 15 and the most money I've ever had was $2,200 at once. I'm 24. Blessed as fuck. You really were blessed. To put in perspective, I worked during my undergraduate years to save about $13,000 by the time when I graduated. Took me about 5 years. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.